Ethan threw me, burning with a fever, out in the suburbs, just so he could take his first love, Lily, to see the ocean. He spent 6 years teaching me how to be independent, but then told Lily she deserved to be cherished by the whole world. So I really didn't need him anymore. Over the phone, Lily shouted excitedly, "Ethan, do you hear the sound of the waves?" Ethan's expression changed dramatically. He slammed his foot on the brake. "Lily, where are you?" She let out a soft chuckle. "I was feeling pretty awful earlier, but being here by the ocean, I suddenly feel a calm I haven't felt in a long time." "Ethan, the sea looks so dark at night, I'm a little scared. But when I dig my feet into the sand, I feel grounded again. The seawater's so cold. I'm starting to feel chilly. If you're cold, how about we get hot pot? That place you said had the best beef tripe." Ethan's voice sounded steady, but the hand holding his phone was trembling. Finally, he spotted Lily's blinking red dot on the GPS. He turned the wheel to change direction. I placed my hand over his. Only then did Ethan seem to remember that I, Emily, was still sitting next to him in the car. Because I stopped him, his face darkened, his eyes instinctively sharpened with frustration. I gave a weary smile and muted the call screen. "Let me out first. I still need to go to the hospital. I have a fever, 102 Fahrenheit. We had left the party early just so they could take me to the hospital. But a single call from Lily was enough for Ethan to forget I even existed." He hesitated. "Emily, I love her." I knew what Ethan meant. What he wanted to say was nothing more than, Lily's situation was more urgent. She needed him more, and I, just running a fever, wasn't a child. I should be able to take care of myself. Before he could say it, I nodded understandingly. "I get it. Go to her. I'll go to the hospital on my own." I got out of the car. I watched as it sat still for 5 seconds. Then the front end turned around, and he drove away without looking back. Lily was Ethan's first love. Back in college, to win her heart, he forced himself to eat a box of mangoes, even though he was allergic. But in the end, she still left him for someone who seemed like a better choice. That breakup crushed Ethan. Left him trapped in self-doubt and self-blame. I wasn't the one who saved him. When I met him, he had already walked out of heartbreak. At that time, he was confident, mature, calm, and composed. He had become my mentor in life. He helped shape the best version of me, just not in the way I had hoped. 2 years ago, Lily reappeared, claiming to be that better choice he once couldn't have. Not only had she cheated, she'd been abusive. Eventually, Lily fell into depression. Severe depression. Ethan became her therapist. He told me he had already moved on. That to him, Lily was just a patient. And at first that was true, until she stopped paying him. Until that night, when Ethan gazed at her with affection and said, "You deserve to be cherished by the whole world." Today was one of Ethan's friends' birthday parties. To really enjoy themselves, they had booked a farm resort on the outskirts of the city. The place was nice, the activities were great, but the location was way too remote. 10 minutes had passed, and no driver on the ride-hailing app had accepted my request. My fever had gotten worse, and I could barely stand. I crouched down by the roadside, debating whether to call an ambulance. Suddenly, a car came driving up from the distance. "Emily, what are you doing here?" I squinted to make out the figure. It looked like Ryan, one of Ethan's childhood friends. He got out of the car and helped me up. "What happened? Where's Ethan?" I didn't want to expose what Ethan had done. I just pleaded, "Can you take me to the hospital? I don't think I can hold on much longer." And I wasn't exaggerating. As soon as I got into the car, I felt dizzy and closed my eyes. In my half-conscious state, I vaguely heard Ryan on the phone with Ethan. He said, "Even if you've got something going on, even if Lily is about to jump into the ocean the next second, you could have just made one phone call. Any one of us could have taken your wife to the hospital. If I hadn't come back at that moment, she could have collapsed on the side of the road and no one would have known. She's not a child." Of course I'm not a child. But he forgot that we were in the suburbs. What did he expect me to do? Magically conjure a car out of nowhere? "Ethan, you really are a damn piece of shit. Fuck." Even though Ethan's actions hadn't caused me any serious harm, I couldn't help but smile a little when I heard someone standing up for me. Maybe it was that small moment of relief that helped me relax. I ended up falling asleep during the rest of the ride. When I woke up again, it was late into the night. There were no missed calls or messages from Ethan on my phone. Instead, I had a text from Ryan. I had to leave for something. I arranged for a nurse to take care of you. Text me when you wake up to let me know you're okay. So I replied, I'm awake. I'm fine. Thank you. After a pause, I added, let me treat you to a meal sometime. I left the hospital the next morning after finishing my IV drip. I had already taken the day off work, so I went straight to a friend's law firm. One of her associates met with me, handed me the divorce agreement, and said, if you need to file a lawsuit, you can contact us anytime. I didn't think it would come to that, but I nodded just in case. When I got back home, Ethan wasn't there. From the look of things, he hadn't come back at all the night before. I didn't call him. I just pulled out my suitcase and started packing. There was less and less of me in this home. Only 3 pairs of shoes remained in the cabinet. The clothes in the closet were just from this season. I had already cleared out the study. Last week, I moved all my computer files to my new apartment. As for the rest of the household items, moving them would be too time-consuming and exhausting. They were better off being destroyed. I made 8 trips in total, tossed everything. Now I sat on the couch with my suitcase, waiting for Ethan to come home. He arrived around 6 p.m. When he saw the suitcase, he froze. Going on a business trip? I said, no. I'm moving out. What do you mean? I took out the divorce agreement. Let's get divorced. Ethan paused for a few seconds, then pushed me away, frustrated. Don't start this. I haven't slept all night. I'm exhausted. I kept my voice calm. I'm not starting anything. Just take a look. If there's anything you're not happy with, we can talk about it. You're serious? He sneered. Emily, are you threatening me now? A grown adult shouldn't act like this, talking about divorce, moving out. You're not a kid anymore. I'd heard this kind of speech too many times. At first, it made me feel guilty, then angry. Now, I felt nothing. I insisted, holding the divorce papers out to him. Look it over. If there's nothing wrong, sign at the end. That's enough, Emily. Ethan snapped. His voice rose. You keep this up, and I'll take it as real. I stared at him silently. Eventually, his eyes filled with rage. He yanked the agreement out of my hands, didn't even read it, just flipped to the last page and scribbled down his name. He barked at me to get the hell out. I still reminded him, tomorrow morning at 8, we'll meet at the Civil Affairs office. Ethan and I had met through a blind date. I had just turned 20, still hadn't graduated from college. I went for fun and was stunned when I saw him, couldn't help but marvel. Are all the guys on the dating scene this attractive these days? Ethan was polite and calm. We both knew we weren't there looking for something serious, so after a bit of small talk, we exchanged numbers and parted ways. It wasn't until 3 months later that I called him, because he was a psychologist. Dr. Ethan, I want to ask you something, I said. If I hear my toothbrush talking to me, what does that mean? Ethan replied, it means you need to come see me. That day, I went through a lot of tests and evaluations. Ethan guided me through every step. Later, he told me, you're sick, you need medication. But I didn't feel sick. Ethan gave a soft laugh, just keep taking it. Eventually, it'll work. That was a time when I relied heavily on Ethan. He was so patient, always gentle with a warm smile. He said to me, it's okay, just a minor issue. I can fix it. He took a year to cure me. I spent 6 months chasing after him. Then we dated, we got married, it's been 6 years now. We didn't even make it to the infamous 7-year itch. We already reached the end before that. But fortunately, I've come to terms with it. I took a photo of the signed divorce agreement and posted it on my social media. The first person to explode was my mom. Phone calls came one after another, message after message. I skimmed through them. Every word screamed either shameless or disgraceful. To avoid sending myself to the ER with a heart attack, I just blocked her. And sure enough, the world went quiet. The next second, my best friend Claire called. She was the first person I had told about the divorce and my closest friend left in my life. She said, I know you've really wanted this for a while, but don't you think it's a bit early to be celebrating? I smiled. It's not a celebration. I posted it so Ethan would see. What do you mean? He probably thinks I'm just throwing a tantrum. But if I don't push him, he won't show up at the Civil Affairs office tomorrow. Ethan is 6 years older than me. My mom used to say a 6-year age gap was unlucky, that our Chinese zodiac signs were in direct conflict, and it would bring misfortune. But Ethan's background and credentials were so impressive that it shattered any superstition. It even made my mom believe I must have done something good in a past life to deserve him. Because of that age gap, Ethan always treated me like a child. When he was good to me, he cared for me like a little girl. When he wasn't, he scolded me like one too. And yet, the phrase he repeated most often was, "You're not a kid anymore." My post must have amused him. The next morning, when I arrived at the Civil Affairs office, Ethan was already there, but he wasn't alone. Lily was with him. She looked at me with a helpless expression. "Ethan told me you two are getting a divorce." I was shocked. "Emily, you can't be so impulsive. If this is about the other night, I'll apologize, okay?" It was laughable. Her tone was the same as when an adult tries to coax a child, but the challenge in her eyes was plain as day. I curled my lips into a slight smile. "Well then, go ahead, apologize." She was momentarily stunned, but recovered quickly and grabbed Ethan's wrist. "It looks like Emily's really angry. Ethan, say something for me." Ethan's face stayed cold. "What is she, a child? She needs someone to speak on her behalf." "Ethan, don't be like this. Didn't you promise you'd talk things through calmly with Emily?" "Emily," I cut her off. "Miss Lily, I'm curious. You keep calling me Emily like we're close, are we?" Lily's face turned pale. Ethan snapped. "Emily, where are your manners?" I was getting irritated. "If I'm not mistaken," I said calmly, "we're here today to finalize the divorce, right?" "So Ethan, are you trying to stall?" Ethan's face darkened. There was no more room for excuses. We went through the entire process at the Civil Affairs office, completed the divorce registration, and the clerk reminded us to return in a month to pick up the certificate. As we walked out, Ethan asked me, "When are you coming to pick up your stuff?" I looked at him in surprise. "You didn't notice?" "Notice what?" "That there's nothing of mine left in that house." Honestly, I couldn't blame him for not realizing. During our 2nd year of marriage, he suggested we sleep in separate rooms. He said that even as a couple, people need personal space. That was the key to long-lasting relationships. I truly trusted him back then. Even though I wanted to share a bed with him, I agreed. From that point on, even if we had sex once a week, he would get up and leave as soon as it was over. A few times I held on to him and pouted, asking if he could stay with me for a while. He always gave me this look like he'd just caught a mischievous child and said, "Emily, we made an agreement. You can't go back on your word." There was one time when a friend of his came over unexpectedly and caught him sleeping in the guest room. He teased Ethan, asking if I had kicked him out. Ethan simply said, "We sleep separately. It was my idea. She's too clingy. It gets on my nerves." I had already told my mother the address of my new apartment, not out of any bond between mother and daughter, but because I knew her. If she didn't know where I lived, she would show up at my office. And if she couldn't find me there, she would go looking for Ethan. The last thing I wanted was for her to drag him into this. Back when I was going through my illness, Ethan had analyzed her behavior with me, broke down her motives and the psychology behind her actions. My mother was like glass in front of him. Her self-righteous little tricks were transparent. Ethan saw right through her, and the way he would smile half amused, half pitiful, made me deeply uncomfortable. Then she called me. "Ethan wants to divorce you. What did you do to make him angry? Why are you always causing trouble? And then you shamelessly go and post about it online. Don't you feel embarrassed? I told you over and over again, just have a baby already. You're almost 30 and still no child. Are you that useless? Why is my life so hard? I go out and people whisper that you must be infertile. Can't you make me proud for once?" She didn't even pause for breath. "I can't eat, I can't sleep, I can't even enjoy my poker games anymore. I don't care what you say, go talk to Ethan, fix this. If you dare go through with the divorce, I'll cut ties with you. You'll no longer be my daughter." This was the same worn-out script I'd heard countless times. It couldn't stir up any emotion in me anymore. But I still couldn't help asking her, "Don't you care why we're getting divorced?" "Why?" she snapped. "Why can't you even hold on to your own man? And you still have the nerve to ask why." "Emily," she said, voice rising with fury, "if you dare go through with this, don't you ever call me Mom again." I went along with it, easily. "All right, ma'am." My mother froze for a few seconds, then burst into a scream. Emily, are you trying to give me a heart attack? You just can't stand to see me live in peace, can you? You want to drive me to my grave, is that it? What did I ever do to deserve this from you? I gave everything I had to raise you, and this is how you repay me? You're trying to kill me. I stared at the hysterical woman screaming in front of me. The truth was, she didn't have a complete sense of right and wrong. She didn't understand boundaries. To her, this divorce was some kind of unspeakable sin, as if I were violating a sacred rule of the universe. And yet, once upon a time, it was she who had pushed me toward my boss. When he made his intentions clear in exchange for money. He was offering $50,000. That summer job he arranged for me? It was at a real estate development company run by one of my father's high school classmates. He told me to go there and learn some finance skills, so I went. But that man, someone I should have been calling uncle, got drunk one night and cornered me in his car. He said if I was willing, we could book a hotel room right now and he'd pay me $5,000 a month. I was terrified. Shaking, I told my mom everything. She was silent for a long time before finally saying, $5,000 is way too little. Tell him 50. If he agrees to 50, then say yes. In that moment, I went completely numb. Numbly, I resigned. Numbly, I went back to school. But he didn't let it go. He forced me to return to that company, saying if I didn't wrap things up properly, how could he ever face that man again? That man, the one who tried to exploit me. It was around then, during a severe depressive episode, that I became Ethan's patient. I remember one day, I picked up a kitchen knife and threw it in front of my mother. She flinched, then snapped to attention. "What are you doing?" I said. "Whatever you want. Kill yourself or cut me. Do whatever makes you happy. But I am getting this divorce." Silence, the kind that presses down on your ears. My mom looked at me with fear in her eyes. "Waving a knife around? That's going too far." I grabbed her and dragged her to the window. "Then let's jump together. Since you clearly don't want to live, I'll give your life back to you." She stumbled out of my apartment in a panic. At the door, she spat venomously. "If you want to die, do it alone. Don't drag me down with you." Finally, peace. I laid down flat on the floor, my mind blank, and somehow I fell asleep just like that. Ethan's call woke me up. He asked, "What do you want to do with the bags and jewelry in the cabinet?" It took me a few seconds to even understand what he was talking about. "They were all gifts from you. They belong to you now." Ethan's voice was cold. "I don't take back things I've given away." "Then throw them out." I hung up. I thought about blocking Ethan's number, but figured I'd still need to contact him when we picked up the divorce certificate, so I left it. Knowing Ethan, once he hit a wall with me, he'd likely back off and never call again. But to my surprise, he called on the fourth day. At the time, I was keeping a promise, treating Ryan to dinner. Ryan looked like a cold and distant person, but once you spent time with him, you realized he was actually kind and calm. His warmth was different from Ethan's. Ethan's gentleness always masked something cold inside. Ryan's kindness, on the other hand, felt like it came from somewhere deep and grounded, refined by time. I thanked him again for helping me that day. He asked how I was doing physically, and we started talking about our work. When I mentioned that I now worked at a tax consultancy, he looked surprised. I smiled. "I passed my CPA exam 2 years ago, so I made a change." Ryan nodded. "Impressive." Then added, "Ethan really didn't see your worth." I lowered my gaze. He probably still didn't even know I had switched jobs. In Ethan's eyes, I had always been useless. When I first told him I wanted to become a CPA, his response was, "Don't waste time on things outside your capabilities." Ryan wasn't the gossipy type, so the conversation shifted naturally to something else. We made some small talk, then finished dinner, and walked out of the restaurant. That's when Ethan called again. He asked, "Where's the body wash in the house?" I stayed quiet. Then I heard Lily's voice in the background. "Forget it. Why are you actually calling Emily? What if she misunderstands? I'm not showering anymore." I answered calmly. "Bottom shelf of the cabinet. Bathrobes on the top." "Have fun," I said. "Wait." Ethan's voice came through the phone, rushed and panicked. "Don't overthink it. Lily and I are just having dinner nearby. A waiter accidentally spilled soup on her." He was trying to explain. "You don't have to explain anything to me," I cut in. But just as I was about to hang up, I missed a step. Ryan caught me in time. "Careful," he said gently. There was a beat of silence from Ethan's end. Then in a low, furious voice he growled, "Who are you with?" I frowned, annoyed and unimpressed. "We're already divorced. Weddings, funerals, anything in between, it has nothing to do with you anymore." Ryan glanced at me. "If you want, I can explain things to Ethan." I looked at him. "You don't believe I'm really divorcing him?" He stared at me for a long moment before saying, "I do." I smiled faintly. "Thank you. I thought I'd made myself clear." But Ethan didn't seem to get the message. He started bombarding me with calls. Then he showed up at my apartment complex. When Ryan was dropping me off at the entrance, Ethan jumped out of his car and charged at him, fist raised, aiming straight for Ryan's face. "I treated you like a brother, and you go and seduce my wife?" Ryan took the punch without fighting back. Ethan went in for another hit, but Ryan grabbed his wrist mid-air and held him still. "That's enough," Ryan said firmly. I rushed forward and shoved Ethan away. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Ethan looked at me, stunned. "You're defending him?" I clenched my jaw. "You're insane." That's when Lily finally arrived, panting and late. She grabbed Ethan's arm, then looked at me disapprovingly. "Emily, you're being so unreasonable. Even if you're angry, you shouldn't be trying to ruin Ethan and Ryan's friendship." Ryan let out a cold laugh. "Lily, were we ever that close?" Her face turned pale. Ryan said, "I know you don't like me." "Then don't speak," I snapped. "Since you know I don't like you, keep your mouth shut." "That's enough," Ethan cut in sharply, instinctively stepping in front of Lily to shield her as he glared at Ryan. "When did the two of you even start?" I exhaled slowly, trying to hold back my frustration. "Ethan, you see filth in everyone because you're the one who's filthy." Lily jumped in. "But you got out of Ryan's passenger seat. Isn't the passenger seat only for girlfriends?" I tilted my head at her. "So you do know." She looked aggrieved. I just get carsick." The hypocrisy was unbearable. Ethan could light fires wherever he pleased, but I wasn't even allowed to strike a match. Everyone could see how ridiculous she was being. Everyone except Ethan, the willfully blind fool. Exhausted, I looked at Ethan. "What is it that you want from me? Why won't you just let me go? Do I deserve this kind of torment from you?" He looked genuinely confused. "Torment you? You think I'm tormenting you?" I stared at him, expressionless. "How did you even know where I lived? You asked my mom, didn't you?" Ethan didn't respond. "You know her better than I do. You know that the second you reach out, she'll think there's still hope. She'll come after me." Over and over again. I paused, my voice steady but sharp. "But you don't care. Because to you, how I deal with her is my problem, not yours." That's what Ethan himself had once told me. "That's your mom. You need to learn how to handle your relationship with her. Don't come to me every time something happens. Otherwise, what was the point of all the treatment I gave you?" And yet now, look at him. I raised my hand and pointed at Lily. "You can help him handle everything. His relationships with his friends, his family, all thanks to your hand-holding and coaching. And why is that? Because to you, Ethan still deserves to be loved by the entire world. And me, Emily, am supposed to bear everything alone. I bore it, Ethan. You taught me how to stand on my own against the entire world. So now I no longer need you. Because of Ethan and Lily, Ryan somehow ended up at my place, but he didn't come inside." He stopped at the entrance and said, "Get some rest. Good night." I did feel guilty toward him, but I was just too tired. Exhausted in both body and spirit, I didn't even have the strength to speak. I could only nod and watch him leave. Ethan said he wanted to talk. I agreed. We met again at his office, at my request. I wanted the conversation to be rational, neutral. As always, Ethan carried that air of superiority. He said, "Fine, I was wrong this time. I shouldn't have left you to go after Lily. But her situation was urgent. I was afraid she might do something drastic. A life was on the line. I couldn't just ignore that. She's my patient. You should understand." Then he added, "But I promise I'll handle things with her properly." That's just like Ethan. A slap, then a candy. I thought back, probably 6 months ago. Lily had rear-ended someone and called you. You had pulled an all-nighter the evening before, but the moment she rang, you rushed out like it was an emergency. Later, you explained to me that Lily had no one else she could call. Ethan frowned. "What are you trying to say?" "I want to ask you, If it had been me who got into a fender bender, would you have come? Of course, Ethan faltered. He probably remembered what happened just a month ago, when the coolant hose in the car broke, and the engine blew out halfway to my destination. That day, my own car was in the shop, so I was driving his. Naturally, I wanted to ask him how to handle it. He said, "If it's theft, call the police. If you're sick, call 911. If the car breaks down, call a mechanic. Emily, this is basic common sense." Now Ethan took off his glasses and pinched the bridge of his nose in frustration. "Emily, be reasonable. I only said that because we'd had a fight the night before." I nodded. "Right, we argued. So if I don't apologize, don't bow my head, then you'll punish me in every possible way? When you do something wrong, shouldn't you admit it?" I stood up, wincing at the pain in my chest. "The biggest mistake I've made in my life was marrying you." Ethan grabbed my arm. "What is it that you want from me?" I looked at him coldly. "I want you not to go back on your word a month from now." The boldest thing I ever did in my life was pursue Ethan. He helped me at my lowest, and for a long time I believed I couldn't live without him. That was the first time I understood what it meant to lose your appetite, lose sleep, just from not seeing someone. I visibly withered on the days I didn't see Ethan. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I only knew I wanted to be with him. Back then, I was truly in love. I clung to him. I was possessive. I got jealous easily, everything Ethan hated. So he broke me down, bit by bit, then tried to mold me into something else. The days Ethan stopped contacting me went by faster than expected. I went on 2 business trips. When I came back, the security guard told me my mother had tried to visit me 3 times. Each time, they stopped her at the gate. Somehow, Lily got hold of my number. She messaged me, accusing me, "Because of you, Ethan and Ryan have completely fallen out." "Happy now?" Lily had messaged me again. I didn't want to waste time on people who didn't know what they were talking about. But I still called Ryan. "If you need me to," I said, "I can explain everything to Ethan." Ryan didn't answer directly. Instead, he asked, "Do you need to?" "No," I said quietly. "I don't, and neither do you." There was a pause. Then Ryan said, "I just got back from my business trip." "How'd you know I was wondering?" I asked. "I dropped by your firm to find you. Something came up. The finance lead at our branch office suddenly resigned and we couldn't find a replacement in time. I wanted to ask if you'd consider handling our bookkeeping." "I charge a pretty high fee," I said. He chuckled softly. "Then I'll work harder. I think I can afford it." I smiled too. "All right, I'll stop by tomorrow so we can go over the details." "Good." He hung up. Maybe I was just imagining things. My conversation with Ryan had been pleasant. That branch office didn't have a lot of business, so outsourcing the accounting was actually more cost-effective. After we discussed the rate, we signed the contract. Ryan glanced at his watch. "I have another meeting after this. I won't keep you." I let out a quiet breath, so it really had been all in my head. "Got it, go handle your business." Ethan came looking for me again, on the 12th day. He looked a bit worn down. "You changed jobs," he said, "and didn't even tell me." I frowned. "What exactly do you want?" He stared at me. "You really want this divorce? What else did you think this was?" Claire used to say that in the relationship between Ethan and me, even though he was 6 years older, I was the one who spoiled him. Everything he wanted, I gave. Everything he asked for, I did. That's why he acted so shamelessly and lost the ability to reflect on his own actions. "This will be the last time," I said. "Let's talk." I was the one who initiated it. I looked Ethan in the eye and said, "I told you when I was studying for my CPA exam, but you flat out told me I'd never pass. I told you when I switched jobs. You didn't believe me, you thought I was delusional. Even when I bought the apartment, I didn't hide it from you. I started renovating it last year. I've been moving things for 2 months now, right under your nose. Why don't you ask yourself, why didn't you see it? Why didn't you hear it?" Ethan looked lost. "But you weren't like this before." I gave a cold laugh. "Thanks to you, right?" My mother was never a good role model. She never taught me right from wrong, never taught me what it meant to be respectful or decent. I had to figure all that out on my own, through trial and error, through pain. So my values came late. When I first got together with Ethan, he used to shake his head in disappointment and say, "You don't even know this, what did your family teach you?" If I were the person I am now, I would have snapped back without hesitation. But back then, I really believed I was wrong. I really felt ashamed. You lectured me with so many principles, Ethan, and you always held me to a saint's standards. I wasn't allowed to be weak. I wasn't allowed to have negative emotions. I wasn't allowed to ask you for help. Everything that came out of my mouth had to be upbeat and positive. I wasn't allowed to speak ill of others. I wasn't allowed to complain about work. I wasn't allowed to lack basic life knowledge. I wasn't allowed to enjoy comfort. You constantly criticized me. You shattered my self-esteem, bit by bit, until there was nothing left. Do you even know, Ethan? There was a time I thought about ending it all, because the pain was too much to bear. I even went to a temple to pray. I asked the gods for guidance. I don't remember what was written on the slip I drew. I don't remember what the monk said when he interpreted it. I only remember crying, and crying, and crying. It felt like I had cried every tear I had in this lifetime. Ethan's face went pale, his lips trembled, and he stammered, "You're my wife. I just wanted you to become a better person." You're a psychologist, Ethan. Why don't you try using your professional training and think about everything you once did to me? Would you call that healing, or would you call that breaking someone? I raised my hand to stop him. Think about it. Really think about it. Ethan had shattered my self-worth piece by piece. I was the one who picked up those pieces, one by one, and stitched myself back together into who I am now. On the 18th day, Ethan showed up outside my apartment building. He called me. "I was wrong. I'll change. Please forgive me. I won't contact Lily again. I won't do anything you don't like anymore." "What do I have to do for you to forgive me?" "I'll give you my life. How about that?" He brought an entire box of mangoes. One bite after another, he devoured them desperately. His lips and cheeks started to swell. His bare arms broke out in hives, red, inflamed, and spreading. He didn't stop. 1, 2, 3. By the time the ambulance arrived, he was struggling to breathe. Even then, as they lifted him onto the stretcher, I never showed up. The hope in his eyes slowly dimmed, and finally his eyelids closed. He lost consciousness. The first one to come find me was Lily. Her eyes were full of hysteria, barely contained. "How could you? He still loves me. What he did, eating those mangoes, that was proof of how much he loves me. You two are getting divorced anyway. Emily, what did you do to him?" I looked at her calmly. "You know, I've always really disliked you, but I never stopped you from being around Ethan. Do you know why?" I answered my own question. "Because your existence saved me." It was Lily's presence, Ethan's dazed, heart-struck gaze whenever he looked at her, that made me realize something. Ethan wasn't a god. He wasn't the person I'd worshipped on some high pedestal. He was just human, flawed, and a little dirty. The second person to come find me was my mother. She didn't understand. "He went that far for you. What more do you want? He's already bowed low enough. He's offered every way out. Why won't you take it?" I didn't understand her either. Ethan had always asked me to cut off ties with her. He begged me to stop sending her money, and yet now she wanted me to get back together with him? Her expression shifted. She turned around and ran off. The third person to come see me was Ryan. I thought he was coming about Ethan too, but instead he said, "We had to go on a last-minute business trip." We rushed overnight to the branch office. The finance director there was about to go abroad, so we had to complete a thorough handover and review all the accounts. Because of the tight schedule, we ended up staying overnight. Later, Ryan said mysteriously, "I'm taking you somewhere." We wandered through several winding alleys until we arrived at an old-fashioned architectural complex. I thought it was some sort of cultural tourism site, but Ryan told me, "This is the Street of Integrity." "Is there even business here?" I asked, surprised. Ryan sighed. "If I'd heard that from you earlier, I wouldn't have invested." He looked a little embarrassed. "I let some shady friends talk me into it. I didn't do my due diligence and ended up with a loss. Haven't made a penny, but at least I learned how to mix drinks." I sat at the bar watching him work behind the counter, his movements smooth and practiced. "Go bring over the 2 customers sitting by the door," I said, teasing. "Let him make them a drink too." Ryan laughed and slid a glass across the bar to me. "Sorry, tonight, the private bartender is fully booked for 1 guest only." I drank quite a bit. Enough to feel tipsy, but not enough to be drunk. The music in the lounge was just right, the temperature just right. Even the breeze drifting in through the half-open window felt just right. In that moment, everything felt light, peaceful, and a little dreamlike. Ryan asked me, "Are you happy?" I nodded. "I am. Genuinely." Ethan said that as long as I went to the hospital to see him once, he wouldn't back out of the divorce. So I went. When he saw me, he smiled, but it was a bitter, twisted smile. "So all this time," he said, "you didn't block me, you agreed to see me, you even talked to me. Was it all just because you were afraid I'd go back on my word?" He asked again, "Do you hate me? Truly hate me?" I answered honestly, "I did. There was a period when I hated you deeply, Ethan. I hated meeting you. I hated loving you." But I went on. Later, as I passed the CPA exam, changed jobs, I gradually let it go. I told him I know myself well. If I could do it all over again, I'd still make the same choice. The Emily at 20 needed someone like you. If it hadn't been you, it would have been another Ethan. Would I have been better off with someone else? I don't think so. Back then, I really wasn't in a good place. I clung to others for survival. But I'm glad you pushed me away. Even though it hurt like hell, I ended up where I wanted to be. Ethan, I don't hate you anymore, not because you're not worthy of hate, but because I don't want to be stuck in the past. But I don't forgive you either. Now, all I want is to leave you behind." To his credit, Ethan kept his word. He didn't go back on it. We completed the divorce paperwork smoothly. He asked, "Can we still be friends?" I looked at him, deadpan. "You're a psychologist? What do you think?" I always remembered something Ethan once said, "The past can't be changed, but the future is full of possibilities. People grow. It's okay to stumble. It's okay to fall flat on your face. Just don't look back. Keep moving forward." After the divorce, I immediately blocked and deleted Ethan and everyone associated with him. The only person I kept was Ryan. In the 4th month after the divorce, Ryan told me Ethan had been reported to the authorities. The accusation? Inappropriate relationships with a patient. The one who reported him, Lily. Because the report lacked concrete evidence, Ethan wasn't officially penalized. But Lily didn't stop there. She pulled out the big guns. She accused Ethan of seducing her during treatment, releasing their chat history, photos of them hugging, and even a video from a couple's discount event at a restaurant where they were caught kissing. Ryan clearly hadn't expected the news to go public in such graphic detail. He scrambled to shut off his phone screen. "I already know," I said calmly. He went silent. I gave a bitter smile. "You're probably wondering, if I knew everything, why didn't I leave him right away?" "I didn't," I interrupted before he could speak. "Back then I was trapped in a prison of guilt and dependence. To escape, I first had to unshackle myself. But I was too weak. I couldn't find the key. So I had no choice but to break myself free, bone by bone." The silence around us grew heavy. Awkward even. Just as I was about to say something to break it, Ryan patted my shoulder. "You're already amazing." I worked for Ryan for a year, until he found a permanent replacement for the finance position. During that year, we made monthly trips to the branch office. Every time, he'd make me a cocktail. His payments were generous. In return, I treated him to many meals. And just like that, without realizing it, we became friends. Claire once asked, "Do you think he wants to date you?" I shook my head. "I don't think so." "Then do you like him?" I was a little dazed. I've never really thought about it. Probably not. Claire shook her head dramatically. "Don't box yourself in. Because of Lily's report, Ethan was fired. His spotless resume now had a permanent stain, making it hard for him to find decent work. And yet, even after everything, he refused to be with Lily, even after everything. Lily, who had failed in both love and revenge, finally gave up. I heard Ethan started doing business, but it wasn't going well. My best friend asked me if I was happy. I nodded. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. I still sent my mom money every month, but I rarely saw her. She said I was petty, that I held grudges. I just let it slide. I still supported her financially, but I'd taken back all my emotional investment, whether love or resentment. That balance made me feel at ease. My birthday's at the end of the year. Since I don't have many friends and I've reached a certain age, I didn't expect anything special. But Ryan took me out for dinner. He celebrated my birthday. The table was set with dishes I loved and my favorite cake. He gave me two gifts, one to wish me a happy birthday, and the other asking me to be his girlfriend. I agreed to be happy and to be his girlfriend. Claire gasped. That's it? You didn't even make him work for it? I smiled. I liked being around him. Grown-up love works differently. We had our rhythm, our quiet understanding. No fireworks, no grand declarations, just something that felt right. But I couldn't help asking Ryan, when did you start liking me? I didn't think I was delusional enough to believe he'd been secretly in love with me for years. Still, I had this feeling he'd been treating me a little differently for a long time. Ryan thought for a moment. At first, I didn't really notice you much. You were Ethan's young wife. Tiny, quiet, very obedient. That's all I knew. Until one time, I went to the temple with my mom. Ryan never had much patience for that kind of thing. While his mom was inside listening to chants, he wandered around aimlessly, and then he saw me. I was crying my eyes out. His first instinct was to leave. No one wants their vulnerable side seen by someone they know, but he didn't walk away, because I was crying too hard. I was trembling, curled up like something had been ripped out of me. Ryan took out his phone and snapped a photo. He thought about sending it to Ethan, thought Ethan should come and deal with it. But in the end, he didn't. I was Ethan's wife. If I could find comfort with Ethan, would I be at a temple, sobbing alone? Ryan figured, forget it, no point doing something unnecessary. But in the end, he did do something. He bought a pack of tissues and handed it to me, but words escaped him. All he could manage was a quiet, "Don't cry." I never remembered who that stranger was who gave me the tissues. But Ryan never forgot the despair he saw in my eyes. At first, he hadn't intended to act on anything. He was against marriage, didn't want a relationship, too much trouble, and I was, after all, his friend's wife. But at every gathering, he would glance at me a few more times, wondering if I still looked as broken, and if he could do anything to make it better. So at KTV, he'd casually tell the server to put the fruit platter near me. At dinner, if my favorite dish, steamed rice rolls, was about to spin away on the lazy Susan, he'd quietly press his hand down to keep it in front of me. It didn't happen often, but he thought, that's okay. As long as I'm there, I'll try to make her a little happier. None of it meant anything, not really. He also fed the stray cats outside his apartment. No purpose, just instinct. Until one day, I started talking about divorce, until Ethan misunderstood us. He never explained himself. Partly because, over the past 2 years, he'd grown more and more disillusioned with some of Ethan's behavior. And partly because he just wanted to make a statement. This girl has suffered enough. I'm standing with her. Ryan never planned to be with me. After all, he was a firm believer in staying single. He didn't believe in marriage. Not until a friend of his finally called him out. Are you seriously stuck in some cruel, secret crush? He had a crush on me. He had a crush on me. It took Ryan 2 days to come to terms with that reality. When it finally hit him, he sucked in a breath, and to his own shock, started thinking maybe he did want to get married. What was going on? Ryan and I got married in our 2nd year of dating. Ethan came to the wedding too, only to be stopped at the entrance by Ryan himself. Don't, Ryan said. It's a happy day, don't ruin it. Ethan cursed him out for being a hypocrite, said he'd been plotting this all along, said Ryan had had bad intentions from the beginning, that we had been messing around behind his back for ages. Ryan sighed. If I weren't worried about getting hexed by karma, I'd punch you right now. Halfway down the path, he turned back. He looked Ethan in the eyes and said, we really didn't. Don't insult her like that. You're acting like she cheated. She didn't. Emily was the one who was hurt. She's the one who was wronged. After we got married, Ryan and I lived a quiet life together, just the two of us. Ryan didn't want kids. After renouncing marriage, he now realized he didn't want children either. His mom said he changed his mind like flipping a light switch, but she didn't push. The fact that he'd agreed to marriage was already a miracle in her eyes. She figured, well, his wife's 6 years younger, maybe she'll outlive him and send him off properly one day. But Ryan was still nervous. He didn't want to keep it from me. But he was also afraid I wouldn't be okay with it. When he finally told me, I laughed. That's perfect. I don't want kids either. The truth was, I'd been struggling with how to bring it up too. It felt unfair to marry someone and then say, by the way, I don't want children. But I truly didn't believe I'd make a good mom. The first half of my life had been so messy, so heavy. Just being able to heal myself in the second half already felt like a blessing. The idea of raising a whole other life, it felt like too much. If I couldn't give it my best, I'd rather not do it at all. Thankfully, we both landed in the same place. The only one who raised an eyebrow was Claire. You trust him? He didn't want to get married before either. What if one day he suddenly wants kids? Men can have kids whenever they want, you know? But I was calm. You're missing the point. This isn't about him not wanting kids, it's about me. I don't want to have children, and it just so happens he doesn't either. So we're on the same page, that's why we got married. Wanting or not wanting is his right, but I'm not changing my stance to match his. We're together because we agree. If we didn't, we wouldn't be. It's that simple. Claire frowned. But doesn't it make you a little sad? I looked up from my spreadsheet. If I let fear of pain keep me from ever beginning, how am I supposed to live? I can't go through life afraid of every step. Hearing that, Ryan was happy. That girl who had once sobbed so violently at the temple. That girl who had been buried in heartbreak, she had grown up, she kept growing, and no one, not even the darkest moments, could ever truly break her. The end. Thank you for reading. Top of form, bottom of form.